There's never time to do so much stuff on Sunday that stuff that would be helpful for you guys to discern and unpack the material for yourself. There's just not enough time for it. So I think what I'll do is record them here in the hopes that at some future date, someone with more skill than I will be able to put them together in a way that makes more coherent sense. One of the first ones I always like to bring to people's attention when they come is Kalama Suta. You hear it called the Discourse to the Kalamas. Read a little something I have here for you. In responding to the Kalas, the Buddha is demonstrating his empiricism and balanced teaching methods. Moreover, the Buddha stands out, perhaps even alone, among religious teachers for his anti-dogmatic treatment of religious doctrines. Most religions, of course, hold that their scriptures or the pronouncements of their leaders are ultimate truths and should be accepted, sometimes unquestionably, by the faithful. But in this discourse, the Buddha makes it clear that he disagrees with traditions that require unquestioning faith in scriptures, traditions, spiritual leaders. Instead, he proposes that there should be proper reasons for accepting any doctrine, even a religious doctrine. According to the Buddha, an objective assessment of a doctrine should look carefully at what sort of results are likely. If one were only to act in accordance with the doctrine, a doctrine should be accepted only to the extent that the doctrine can be verified in the person's own experience, and that this leads one to wholesome and happy consequences. Even the authority of the Buddha and the Buddhist text, therefore, should not ever be a matter of blind faith. The canonical texts are certainly revered by Buddhists around the world, but if one takes the Buddha at his own word, the texts are to be read critically, and the teachings contained in their text subjected to reflection and empirical assessment. Today we call this position religious empiricism, and a way of describing the society and what we do there is what they call religious humanism. I think we would be categorized that in some schemes of sorting Western Dhamma. So the background is this village of people, they live at a crossroads, and just like now, crossroads, everybody's going through there on their way to someone else, and they get a lot of answers and questions, and then there's more answers and more questions, and all from different people as they're going through, one religion, one tradition, one teaching, one teacher, and every time, and they're going to relay this to the Buddha. There are, sir, certain recluses and Brahmins who come to Kesaputta. They explain and proclaim only their own doctrines, while the doctrines of others they abuse, despise, treat with contempt, and even condemn. Also, sir, there are other recluses and Brahmins who come to Kesaputta. These also explain and proclaim their own doctrines, while the doctrines of others they abuse, despise, treat with contempt, and condemn. We're in doubt and perplexity about this. Who among these speaks the truth? Who speaks what's false? Indeed, it's proper to be in doubt, Kalamas, and to be perplexed. When there is a doubtful situation, perplexity arises. In such cases, do not accept a thing by recollection. This is important, the criteria that so many of us take our beliefs, our core from it, following this. Don't accept a thing by recollection, by tradition, by report, because it's based on the authority of scriptures or text, by mere logic or inference, by reflection, because of fondness for a certain theory, because it seems suitable to us in a particular occasion, nor thinking this is a teacher that's respected by us. But only when you know for yourselves that these things are wholesome, blameworthy, when undertaken and performed lead to harm and suffering, these you should reject. Reject things unwholesome, blameworthy, reproached by the wise. Sometimes that's unpacked it's unpacked in two different ways. Reproached by the wise, that could be you when you're in a more centered and more clarity and less reflex-driven personality state. or be the people that you would be embarrassed to have it in front of, things maybe we wouldn't do in front of our grandma or grandpa or our children or anything like that. And that when the things undertaken and performed lead to harm and suffering. Pretty clear. What do you think, Kalamas? When greed arises in a person, is it to their benefit or to their detriment? To their detriment. So, Kalamas, does the greedy person, being overpowered by greed, losing their control of their mind, killing what's given, or taking what's ungiven and killing beings, do they tell lies and encourage others to do the same? Which things are to his detriment and suffering for a long time? Yeah, these things they leave deep scars, deep grooves in us. What do you think, Kalamas, when hatred arises within a person? Is it to their benefit or detriment? Detriment. Our hatred hurts us usually far more than it hurts the people that we're mad at or we're simmering about. Heck, a lot of the time they don't even know it, but the grooves together, they can go deep. What do you think, Kalamas, when delusion arises within a person? Is it to our detriment or their benefit? To their detriment. These things, unwholesome and blameworthy, reproached by the wise and undertaken, performed, that lead to detriment and suffering, these you should reject. Having said this, for the reason I'd said, they don't work, or you haven't been able to verify them in yourself. You can suspend judgment on whether they actually might have some value for some people, but they haven't worked for you. And Buddha switches it around when things are wholesome and blameworthy. When you think non-greed arises, is it to your benefit? It's to our benefit. And when non-hatred arises, is it to our benefit? That's to our benefit too. And when non-delusion arises, well, that's for our benefit as well. So I'm trying to summarize this for you. Now Kalamas is a noble disciple who is freed from covetousness and malevolence, nor confused in mind, attentive and mindful, with a heart filled with loving kindness. That's how we want to be, I guess. He lives having pervaded one direction with heart, and likewise a second direction, a third and a fourth with such a heart, and likewise a second and likewise a third, upwards and downwards everywhere, and in every way throughout the world. He lives endowed with a loving kindness way throughout the whole world. He lives endowed with a loving kindness that is widespread, great, boundless, free from hatred and untroubled, with a heart filled with compassion. He lives having pervaded one direction with such intentions, and likewise a second direction, a third direction, and a fourth direction, upwards and downwards. And this goes through the whole cycle of the Brahmaviharas, the metta component, which is a friendly kindness kind of thing, the compassion component, the sympathetic, appreciative joy, to be happy for someone as if it was happening to you, even if you wanted it for you instead, and an equanimity that comes when you're able to develop these sorts of mental states. It's hard to knock you off your center. This is also something you see throughout the sutras as the typical metta meditation that the Buddha gives, this kind of instruction. He doesn't seem to go with the concentric circles that comes later during the Buddha dose and path of purification. But the way the Buddha always had us do meditation was to generate a feeling of loving kindness or compassion or whatever the positive mental state we're trying to cultivate is, and generate that within ourselves by whatever kasina or objects of meditation we need to generate those feelings. Sometimes, a lot of I encourage people to view a baby kitten or a newborn infant or something that inspires that kind of instinctual desire to protect and care for. I guess we'll wrap up on that for today. So question everything, and as you're looking for things and looking for answers, those are the reasons that you don't take something, because of tradition, or because it's in the text, or because it's in the scriptures.